The air was thick with that swampy, rotten smell, the kind that gets into your clothes and stays with you. And I remember standing there on what used to be my backyard, just taking in the sight of Karen from the HOA, hair frizzing in the humidity, screaming at a city inspector while her perfect prefab palace sank another inch into the mud. You could practically hear the frogs laughing at us from the front lawns. Somewhere out in that watery mess, a rusted mailbox floated past like some tragic little parade float. And if you're wondering how my life turned into this backwater disaster, you're not alone. Honestly, I never figured a skinny creek running through my yard would become the battleground for a full-blown war. But that's how these things happen. It used to be my refuge, you know. After a long day under houses welding pipes, I'd just collapse in an old chair with a cold beer, maybe cast a line into the creek, not really hoping for anything but a bluegill or two and some peace and quiet. Dragonflies zigzagging through the reeds, the smell of wet grass in the air, the kind of quiet you don't mess with. But nothing lasts, does it? The HOA had always been over on the other side, with their identical beige houses and pumpkins lined up like a cult, pretending we on the creek side didn't exist. Then, just like that, the lines changed. One day we're the old-timers, next day, Karen Mitchell's on my porch in head-to-toe pastel, clutching a clipboard like a shield, announcing she's the new sheriff in town. She had that smile you only see on people who secretly hope you'll step on a rake. "Community standards chair," she said. I told her I was busy, which, honestly, should have been enough, but she kept going. Said my creek was a hazard. An unauthorized water feature, as if I'd stuck a pool in without asking. You ever get accused of something so stupid you just laugh? That was me. I told her the creek had been here since before mortgages and lawnmowers, but all she heard was rules, rules about fences, rules about water, rules about aesthetics, rules for the sake of rules. I tried explaining, quoting county codes, showing her the survey that said the creek was protected, but she just scribbled on her clipboard and stalked off, leaving the smell of expensive perfume and fresh rage behind. 2 days later, I got my first violation notice, blue tape stuck to my door, unauthorized landscaping, unsafe water, harboring non-native species, which, I guess, meant frogs. I ignored it. Then came another, threatening a $100 fine each day until I fixed it. So I sent them the paperwork, thinking logic would win out. Instead, I got an inspection, 3 strangers in matching polos, taking pictures of my backyard like they were going to sell it for scrap. Karen, of course, stood on the edge, tapping her foot, daring me to blink first. At the next HOA meeting, which I had zero intention of attending, until now, Karen stood up and declared my little creek an imminent threat to suburban life. Insurance risk, mosquito haven, erosion waiting to happen, the works. When I stood up to set things straight, she handed me a pile of paperwork and told me to either fence the creek, fill it in, or pay for weekly inspections at my own expense. I told her where to put that paperwork, with a smile. That's when things got weird. More complaints showed up, mailbox smashed, someone even dumped rocks in the creek to clog it up. And there was Karen, snapping pictures from her SUV like she was on a stakeout. But I refused to budge, kept my creek clean, trimmed the reeds, made sure the water flowed. It was mine, damn it, and I wasn't going to give it up. But I should have seen what was coming. Early Wednesday, I was sipping coffee on my porch when I heard that unmistakable rumble, not city workers, but a cement truck, backing into my side yard, some guy in a vest guiding it like he was docking a yacht. "Drainage mitigation, HOA approved," he said. And before I could even get my boots on, they dumped a load of concrete straight into the creek. I charged out there, slipped in the mud, went down hard, but by the time I got up, the creek was gone, just a hard gray scar running through my yard. Frogs scattered. Karen watched from the sidewalk, arms folded, smiling like she'd just won the lottery. Let her think she did. The first big rain was almost a relief, cooling the whole neighborhood, until the water started backing up. Where the creek would have carried it away, now it just pooled, turning lawns to swamps, the sidewalk ankle-deep. It didn't take long for problems to hit the neighbors. Basements flooded, yards washed out, the cul-de-sac turned into a pond. But every time, the HOA sent out blame notices, not one mention of what they'd done to the creek. They passed new fines, made up new rules, charged hundreds for inspections. I said nothing, just played along, all the while documenting every storm, every puddle, every flooded lawn, photos, drone footage, notes about who got hit the worst. Meanwhile, the neighbors turned on each other, blaming flower beds, soccer balls, anything but the real problem. Karen, of course, was promoted to head of flood mitigation, which was mostly writing more violation letters. But you can't concrete over nature and expect it to forget. The cracks started showing, retaining walls sagged, lawns tilted, the earth shifted, slow and steady. It was like the whole neighborhood was holding its breath, waiting for something to snap. The tension built, people stopped talking, everyone blamed everyone else. Karen strutted around like she was sheriff of a sinking ship, handing out more fines, telling me to submit new plans for my drainage violations. I just kept smiling, filing every notice away, waiting for the inevitable. And then the storms came, and not just a rainy week, but a full-on, 100-year flood. Streets turned to rivers, driveways cracked, basements filled with water. Houses, especially the dream homes, started to crack, then buckle, then sink. I watched it all unfold from my porch, same old chair, coffee gone cold. Karen was losing it, screaming at inspectors as water crept up her porch. The HOA held emergency meetings, handed out sandbags, blamed the city, blamed the weather, but never themselves. That's when I made my move. See, I'd found some old documents from my grandfather, land surveys, county letters, environmental protections. The creek wasn't just a pretty feature, it was a legally protected watershed. What the HOA had done was illegal, plain and simple. I called the county, the city, sent anonymous emails with drone footage and copies of those documents to news stations and neighborhood forums. It didn't take long. County inspectors showed up, city officials followed, and the local news ran a story on unauthorized modifications worsening neighborhood floods. Suddenly, the whole thing blew up. Karen marched into the next HOA meeting with a stack of papers, raving about slander and conspiracies, but behind her the screen showed drone shots of that cement pour, maps, county codes, the works. Even the loyalists started looking away. Lawsuits started. City citations landed in every board member's mailbox. Insurance companies denied claims for flood damage and collapsing foundations. Red tags went up on a dozen homes, including Karen's, unsafe, unlivable. Families packed up and left, their houses condemned, their equity washed away. Karen, the once queen, wound up in an old RV at the edge of the neighborhood, watching the world she tried to control dissolve around her. The HOA fell apart. A few miserable holdouts voted to dissolve it for good. Bankruptcy looming, Karen dragging boxes of shredded documents into the rain. And after the HOA was gone, the neighbors had a choice: patch things up the old way, or restore the creek. They chose the creek. With help from the county, we dug out the concrete, planted native grasses, let the water find its way again. The land healed. Dragonflies and frogs came back. The first time the creek burbled through my backyard again, I carved a sign, "Nature always wins," and planted it by the water's edge. Not spite, not bragging, just truth. Because no matter how high you build your walls or how many rules you write, you can't fight the land forever. It remembers, it waits, and when the time is right, it reclaims what's its own. Karen left, finally, and the house she lorded over turned into a moldy monument to hubris. New folks moved in, never asking about the past, content to let the creek tell the story. And me, I still sit by the water sometimes, watching the sunset, listening to the frogs, running my fingers over the rough wood of that sign. And I think, you can pour concrete over a creek, but you can't stop what's real. The land always wins, and if you've ever tangled with an HOA, you know exactly what I mean. So what do you think? Did the neighbors get what they deserved, or did the HOA? What's fair when it comes to community and nature? And where do you draw the line between control and common sense? Drop a comment. Tell me what you'd have done, because trust me, in a neighborhood war, it's never just about the water.